Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lily's Library. Today, I will be introducing a book which is one of my favorites. Today, I will be introducing the book Wonder by R.J. Pasio. As you probably know, Wonder was made into a movie and was released a couple of months ago. And by the way, if you do not know the plot of it, let's just go through it really quickly. August Pullman, the main character, is starting middle school, but because of the fact that he has a slight facial deformity, well, this is his first time attending a real school. And obviously, because he looks different from everyone else, all the kids treat him like an outsider. But August makes friends with two other kids, Jack and Summer at school, and even if there's other kids which are basically really big jerks to him throughout the entire story, he still has a nice time in his first year at middle school. The problem is that there's some kids which really have it in for Augie, and they want to cause trouble for him, just because he is different. For example, one of those kids is Julian, and he's one of those stereotypical bullies that you see in almost every single kid's books, which are based around some point around middle school. Now, you see, when Julian keeps on pressuring Jack, one of August's friends, to ditch Augie and to become one of his group, Jack, without knowing that August is listening to their conversation, just says what Julian wants him to say, and says bad things about August. This makes the two friends have a falling out, but Jack in the end realizes what he has done and gets into a fight with Julian instead. As the kids work out their troubles, there are lots of other characters which change their point of view. For example, August's sister's problems are a part of the book. August's sister is Via. She's been an independent person for her entire life because her family has always revolved around August's problems. But she feels like no one cares about her because she's always having to put away all of the things that she wants just so that August can get what he needs. The characters in the book take turns talking about their point of view, and it shows that in the movies by letting other characters have a turn to talk about their own problems, like Via, August, and Via's friend, Miranda, along with Jack and Summer. Okay, now that we have the summary out of the way, let's talk about the movie and the book at the same time. Because all the people who know about what happens when you make a book into a movie, we all know that there's gonna be some bad parts in the movie because of how the movie had to be made different from the book. And you know that the movie just had to cut out some of the important parts of the book. I mean, it is necessary to cut out some parts of the book in order to make a nice flow for the movie. But let's just say the movie can accidentally cut out a lot of important parts that the book tries to convey. So let's start with a comparison. Now, the first thing that slightly disturbed me when I heard that they were making a movie out of Wonder was how they were going to portray the characters, especially the main character, Augie, otherwise known as August Pullman. The story revolves around how Augie is different from other kids because of how he looks, but how he's not different because he's just the same person like everyone else. But the thing about the book is that when you read the book, you can't even imagine what he looks like. You can't see his face on the front cover or in any of the pages. In the book, August doesn't even bother telling the audience how he looks. It says directly in the books, "I won't describe what I look like. Whatever you're thinking, it's probably worse." And he doesn't mention anything other about his face. In fact, in the entire book, which is more than 300 pages, no one really describes what August looks like directly, not including Via, who describes what August's face looks like using words. But even the characters' words do not convey what August looks like directly. You can't imagine an accurate representation of August's face. And while reading the book, the audience doesn't care what Augie looks like at all, because it's hard to imagine, and that prevents them from imagining what his face looks like. But when it's the movie, that element completely changes. When the movie starts, you can see what August is supposedly supposed to look like. Not only does he look way more normal than described in the books, it shatters the reader's imagination, or the lack of their imagination. What I initially liked about the book, Wonder, was that in the book, so many people judge August by his face. He faces so much bad events because of how he looks, but he also has people around him who doesn't care what he looks like. So it's very interesting for the reader to try and think of what they would act like around August if he was a real person around them. And the audience, or reader, because if we're talking about the book, they would have to think very hard, because you can't directly imagine August's face accurately. The readers would have to think very hard about how they would act to someone who is extremely different from them. But when you watch the movies, you don't really get the chance to get that thoughtful thinking. You just see the actor's face, which is not an accurate representation of the descriptions in the books either. And that's what slightly bothers me about this, that they don't get the good chance to think of what they would do in that position. They just look at the person who looks different from what they're supposed to look like in the books and think, oh look, he doesn't even look that bad, the poor kid. I wouldn't treat them that badly. It's different from when you read the books. And now for the second thing, which was different in the movies. The characters, their development, and their point of views. In the movies, I noticed that a couple of chapters of the books was cut out really abruptly. It was obviously because those chapters weren't necessary for the plot of the movie and that it would just make more time. But something about that didn't strike quite as right. The characters who could have just been in the background of the movies, the books, they were much more developed. They had their own personalities, their own problems. Even though they weren't the main character, August, they just didn't revolve around him, even though it just seemed like it. They all had problems in their own lives, and they all supported some other people in their own ways. In the books, August has much more interactions with much more many people. And in the movies, he doesn't get that much interactions with other people other than just a few people, such as Jack and Via. Same with Via, she doesn't get the interactions with the other people that she deserves. Her relationship with Miranda was cut very short. Even though it's obvious that her friendship is something very complicated. And the most important scene with Via, where she finally admits that she doesn't feel important enough, that everyone has their attentions on August, that scene was almost completely cut out, which is disappointing because that was one of the most important scenes for her character development. Now, there's another complaint, which is that some characters had chapters in the books but got cut out completely. Justin, Via's boyfriend, and Summer, one of August's best friends. Justin had an entire chapter dedicated to him in the books, about his relationship with Via and how he needed to develop more as a person in order to help Via, and how he helped Jack and August with their school problems without letting them know about it. All of the character development was cut out and he was just a background character. And now there's Summer, one of the most important characters in the books, who just became an unnecessary background character in the movies. Summer is a wonderful girl who, in the books, isn't even in any of August's classes. Instead, she just sits with him on the first day at lunch, because at first she feels bad for him that no one's near him, but then they gradually become real friends, and they hang out while making themselves feel better. In the movies, she was just some kid who sat in the back of the class in one of August's classes, and she didn't actually become friends with him by sitting with him at lunch until Jack and August had a fight. It felt like she was just there to be a tool for Jack and August to become friends again after their fight, instead of being a great character and a great source of support for August. And now let's get to my biggest complaint on the movie difference from the books. This is the biggest complaint that I have. What is the complaint? Oh, well, try to guess. No, it's not that at the end of the books they got another dog after Daisy died. Oops, spoilers. But in the movies they didn't get any other dog and they just lived without any dogs in the house. How does that even make sense? Ahem. Yes, that's not the complaint. And the complaint is not about how in the books August had a really big deal about getting his hearing aids and then losing them, but in the movies he didn't even get hearing aids in the first place. That wasn't the problem either. And my complaint wasn't that there was a scene in the movies that the books didn't really have, which was more of just a place where Julian could redemption himself. Okay, excuse me, that wasn't a word. Redemption himself is not a good word. That isn't even a word. I'm just trying to say there wasn't any redemption scene for Julian in the books. But there's a separate chapter for Julian apparently, which I didn't even notice. Wow, is this just an opportunity to get more readers on, or maybe this is just a pure redemption story, who knows? Anyways, that's not my complaint either. My biggest complaint out of everything that the movies did to the books is Charlotte. And you are probably saying, wait, what? That doesn't even make any sense. She was just a background character in the books and in the movies. But she is a problem. The problem isn't that she doesn't get enough screen time in the books, in the movies. She's a background character in the books and in the movies, and I'm satisfied with that. The problem is that the image that she gave in the books doesn't match the image in the movies. And that, I think, is a big problem because of the messages that the story of Wonder is supposed to convey. Now you see, in the movies, Charlotte is this slightly overexcited and slightly obnoxious theater kid who shows August around on the first day and sometimes just waves at him from across the classroom, and that's it. She's just another one of those nerd kids in the background. And yes, that was her image in the books too. However, there's something different in the books. You see, in the books, Charlotte is really nice to August. She's nice to him. She shows him around when the principal asks her to. She sometimes waves at him. She isn't really his friend, but when he and Jack and people who try to be nice to them start getting bullied by Julian's gang, she secretly tells them the situation they're in. But the thing is, she doesn't do anything more. That's why she's just a background character. She isn't one of August's friends, although she's not his enemy either. She doesn't come sit with him at lunch when it's obvious that he's eating alone, unlike Summer. She doesn't do more than tell them about the situation they're in. She doesn't try to change it. She doesn't try to tell them that they need help. Instead, she tells Jack secretly about the situation and runs away as fast as possible because she doesn't want to be seen with them. Now, Charlotte is the shining example of nice. She's very kind. She's just not kinder than necessary, that's all. One of the quotes from the book which really sticks with everyone is, "Be kinder than necessary." It's from the speech that the principal makes at the end of the school year, right at the end of the book. At the ceremony where August gets his award for being a wonder, for being himself. It's a quote from the book The Little White Bird. "Shall we make a new rule of life, always to try to be a little kinder than is necessary? Kinder than is necessary. Not just kind, as Charlotte was, but kinder than is necessary, kinder than she needed to be." Now, as you can obviously see, Charlotte is the example of the people who are kind, but not kinder than necessary. The people kinder than necessary are people like Summer, who not only acknowledge the trouble you are in and try to help a bit, but get into the problem with you and try to solve it even if it gets them into trouble as well. The people who are kinder than necessary are the people that we truly need in life. And at the end of the book, you can see that Charlotte realizes that. As you can see from her little end of the year quote, "It's not enough to be friendly, you have to be a friend." Now that's the problem that I had. In the books, Charlotte was the example of someone that we all can be, and that we all usually are. None of us are usually giant jerks to everyone just because they're slightly different. Most of us try to be as kind as possible, even if some people are slightly different. We're nice, we accept them, and we do slightly kind things to them to show that we appreciate their existence. But we never really appreciate anything else about them. We're kind, but mostly we're not kinder than necessary. We do what is necessary for them to be happy in society, or what we think is necessary for us to do. We don't do any more. We're just like Charlotte in the story. We're just in the background and we help them when we think we can, although we can do much more. Charlotte showed what we all are, but shouldn't be. And she's one of the most important characters that show a message in this book, although it might not seem like it. She wasn't shown in the movies that much, and I think it sort of got rid of the message that Wonder had. That you had to be accepting of everyone. But not just accepting, you have to be kind to them. To be kinder than you need to. To be willing to sacrifice some things, and to be able to put yourself into at least a bit of trouble in order to save someone from a troubling situation. Wonder is a beautiful story about saying sorry, and making friends, accepting others even if they're different, and being kinder than you need to. And although the movies didn't convey all of the messages that were in the books, I still think at least a bit of the story went through. And I'm happy to think that at least more people knew about this book this way. Wonder is truly one of my favorite books. And it's all because of the wonderful message that it sends to the people who read it. Now, I think we got everything across now about what kind of book Wonder is, and about the messages that it has, and how the movie sort of didn't convey any of those, but still had the basic messages. Now, I hope you guys at least read the books before watching the movies, and if you didn't, I hope you will read the books sometimes in the future, because it's very different from the movies, and it holds a lot more messages inside it. I swear I cry every time I read it, so yeah, please check it out. And just thank you for listening today. Now apparently, now that I've noticed, apparently there's separate chapters for Charlotte and Jillian, and some other characters as well, so maybe you guys would like to check those out, because they would give you more depth into the characters and the story as well. And I hope everyone here is not someone who from now on will just become someone who is only kind to people instead of being kinder than necessary. I hope everyone here, including me, will from now on become someone who is able to be kinder than necessary to people who need it. And if you do truly become someone who is able to be kinder than necessary to everyone around you, you really are a wonder. And I admire you. Thank you for visiting my library again, and I'll see you next time in the next video. Thank you.